You're going to have the FOMC tomorrow. We've got Meta and Microsoft tomorrow afternoon. Then we've got Apple and Amazon Thursday afternoon. So that's 50 hours from now. And I'm leaving out the hundreds of other corporations doing earnings tomorrow morning and afternoon and the next day. But those are like the monster events happening. For today, it's fairly quiet. We had started off strong and it's been kind of selling off pretty much all day long. We're all red now. We're red on the ES, the NQ, barely, and the RTY. And it's a pretty good day. A lot of stuff breaking down, a lot of cool charts happening. So I've got them preloaded and we can jump in and thumb through them. We begin, as always, with a spider. And as always, we have a lifetime high intraday. However, we are down and it looks very likely we'll have a bearish engulfing pattern. Now, these aren't that big a deal. I mean, candlesticks are nice. They're a little bit of an accent on the chart, but these are one-day patterns. We're really two-day patterns. And for example, we had a bearish engulfing pattern here. You can see how little that mattered. But I'm at least pointing out that on the heels of daily lifetime high closes, we're at least getting a bit of a reversal right now on the spider itself. The diamond is also down about 0.5%. And in this instance, we had a lifetime high a few days ago, and we've been just sort of marking time since then. So 5 days in a row, just kind of hanging out, doing not much of anything. And as I mentioned yesterday, it would take a break of this very short-term support level to give the bears a little feather in their cap. That would be a very modest failed bullish breakout, but not very consequential. The small caps, IWM, are also down about 0.5%. My stop on this is just above 226.84. This was the peak about 4 trading days ago. It's been slipping very slowly since then. Over in semiconductor land, which continues to be really the foundation holding up everything, we are green on this on an intraday basis, lifetime high. But sold off a little from its highs today. Going back to candlesticks, we have what's called a spinning top right here. The open and the last price are very, very close, that tight little body right there, and then these long shadows above and below it, hence the spinning top. It denotes a certain amount of uncertainty. But as I said, the lifetime high today, anchored to today's high. And in this instance, for the aforementioned little feather in their cap, although this would be a more significant break, it would require a failure of this 281.82 level. That would be a bigger deal than what I was showing with the diamonds. But it would take some doing. I will say, though, that this is being massively supported right now by Nvidia. So it is at the mercy of whatever Nvidia does. We'll look at that in just a moment. As far as the cubes, they're almost unchanged right now. They're off just a little bit. Intraday lifetime high, and maybe lifetime high close. It depends on how the next 40 minutes go. As it is now, we're very little changed. We're down just a few hundredths of a percent below yesterday's close. But getting back to Nvidia, this is the linchpin holding up the whole schmear. This has been pretty much solid up ever since April 7. Another lifetime high day on an intraday basis. We are off a little bit, about 1/3% right now versus yesterday's close. It's just kind of a lot of smoke and not a lot of fire right now. Of particular interest to me, one of my larger positions out there is China. We've talked about this on a daily basis for the past few days, and this is by way of FXI, which is the big ETF for China. And there are 2 or 3 reasons behind this. Reason number 1, here at the very long-term view, is the failure of that lifetime trend line, that dashed blue line. So that's big reason number 1. Zooming in, reason number 2 is the fact that these successive lunges higher fall almost as quickly. And I think we've got another peak here. So we had this peak and this one And then a few days ago, this one. And then even tighter still, for the sake of trading, that's the stop loss I'm using, just above 38.84. This is an island reversal pattern. Usually kind of rare in the case of a overseas ETF, not such a big deal because almost every day has a gap in it. But the good news is that we have been sinking on this pretty decently. We're down a bit more than 0.5% right now. And keep in mind, this is after the white flag went up for US and China. I just read that they've made it official, yet another 90 days of nothing, just to kind of chit chat. And I'm absolutely certain 90 days hence, it'll be another 90 days. They'll just keep doing this until his term is over. Thank God. So, we'll see how that plays out. One of the big individual stock events today is Novon Nordisk. Now, I used to talk about this a lot, and the reason is because it had an incredible head and shoulders pattern up here. Let's just dial back time. We're getting our time machine. And back here, around about October of last year, we had a fairly well-formed head and shoulders top. Here's the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder. A couple of imperfections, which make this kind of a B instead of an A. Imperfection number one is that it's kind of like a hunchback. It's the left shoulder is lower than the right. It's not really what you want to see. And the other is that the neckline, which is the base of this semicircle, was invaded a little bit pierced right here. So just not quite exactly what you want to see, but it yielded great results. Because when we were talking about this was about $120 instrument. What is it now? 54. So what's that? 55% drop, approaching 60% drop. There's the pattern we were following. Fell, retraced, and then bang, bang, all the way down. And so collapsing today, just tremendous. One of the great examples of a head and shoulders top expressing itself in a fall. So that's cool. Another victory for classic charting. Finally, I win with Royal Caribbean. This has been a beast. RCL just kept defying gravity higher and higher and higher. It was at a lifetime high just like a day or two ago. But at long last, this succumbed. I'm not a big fan of cruise line companies, and I've been tilting to this windmill for a while. And as I said, we've got a terrific hard fall. It was lower earlier today. It has been fighting back. It opened kind of near the lows and then rallied to some degree, but it's still off about 5%. And I think the damage we're seeing is going to lead to much lower prices. So I'm hanging on to that. I'm not showing it today, but just anecdotally, I noticed Netflix too in FLX also kind of experiencing the failure of the midline. I don't have quite the animus toward Netflix that I do toward cruise companies, but we're getting the same kind of failure. So yeah, RCL getting hit, sticking with it, good short. And another item related, although pretty much unchanged now, was falling in sympathy before, but it's recovered from that. CCL, Carnival, like so. Surprisingly unblemished by that drop. A couple of other massacres, also talked about here at length. United Healthcare, still falling. We had, of course, the lifetime high on this was way up in the 600s back in November of last year. And because of various and sundry events, it has been getting hammered. The stock has lost way more than half its value. And this isn't some weird biotech nobody's heard of. This is like one of the giants of the world, one of the biggest companies on the planet, losing, 60% of its value in 8 months' time. Yeah. And I dare say not done falling. So this has been just a cataclysmic drop for UNH. And also, it definitely called this one. I made a big stink about this. Centene, CNC, is falling on this one. In this instance, we had a peak on this back at about 100. How much has it lost? 75%. 75% of the market cap gone in in the context of the most preposterous bull market in human history. If this were a normal market, this would be a penny stock at this point. But it's being held up by all this, so it's like still 25. I strongly suspect it'll just keep crumbling. And you can see here in recent weeks, it's been a really consistent performer. So that's cool too. Healthcare getting demolished. Over in Bitcoin land, down a couple of $1,000. The peak from a couple of weeks ago, during all that legislative pandering, is still holding at 123,000. It's been kind of stuck there for a few weeks. I guess they're waiting for some other impetus, like the Federal Reserve buying $1 trillion worth of Bitcoin or something. But it's just sitting there right now because there's no reason to do otherwise. Some odds and ends in ETF land that I wanted to point out, and just kind of some interesting charts here. Here's the home builders XHB, and this I see a limit on this one, kind of a stop loss, if you will, 108.25. I think it's a good one on XHB. XLB, in this case, I've tightened this up to 91.97. Call it 92. XLE, this was looking pretty good, and it still looks all right so long as it doesn't violate, say, about 90 or so. It got a bit of a boost because I think there was a rally in crude oil an hour or two ago based on some political stuff going on, but this is approaching that red dashed line. And then XME, continuing to hold this one, continuing to do well, tighten up the stop on this one to around 76 and a quarter. We've had a nice tumble on this 5 days in a row, slipping slowly lower. Just looking at some big cash indexes to wrap things up. The Indu's down, I think around 250 points or so. We, for the moment, have kind of a triple top happening. We had a lifetime high here back in December 4. We tagged it again back in January 31. And then we approached it again just a few days ago. So December, January, July, keeps approaching that level and weakens thus far. I imagine that once we get Wednesday and Thursday out of the way, a lot of the smoke's going to clear to see if it'll finally conquer that or if it'll once again obey the laws of gravity. Adjunct to that, the transports continue to be very weak. As I said a few days ago, unlike a lot of other charts where you could make a plausible bullish argument, this is very broken. I guess UPS has a lot to do with this today. UPS has lost more than half its value, which is incredible. I guess that's the work of Amazon with their trucks. In tech land, extremely high, but as I said earlier, a little bearish engulfing patterns happening today. Open strong, weaker now. Maybe some nerves about the next, the 4 of the Mag 7s reporting. But here's the comp Q, down about 1/5%. We have the NDX also down fractionally, and also with a bearish engulfing pattern. The Russell 2000 off a little bit more substantially, and we've got a firm stop right there where that dashed red line is. And very importantly, the SOX, the Semiconductor Index, which let's just zoom in on this one because this is very interesting. The lifetime high here is still intact, which is kind of amazing. Back on July 11, that lifetime high is still there. And the other cool thing is that this dashed line right here, which was marked like so, we have not exceeded that. So we have not, it's been a full year, a little more than a full year since we achieved that lifetime high. It's struggling right now. What to do next? Can Nvidia power it yet higher, or is that all she got? Finally, the one thing I'm really bullish on, very bullish on this fear, volatility. We've been smashed down to the lower teens. We're worth on this less than a quarter of what it was at just in April. And so, long fear. Okay, well, that's it. See you tomorrow. We'll still be drum rolling on earnings, but we'll at least be at the tail end of the Jerome's latest thing. So I will see you then during that. His press conference will probably be approaching an end, and we'll catch up together. And see you then.
If you're not subscribed, subscribe right here. And if you want to meet me and the team in person at our next live event, hit the link at the top of the description.